The story begins in Zombivli, where we see a man named Vishwas taking a sick person to the hospital. But the hospital at this time was already packed with people, because in the area, many people suddenly fell ill at the same time to the extent that patients had to lie overflowing outside the rooms. Vishwas asks the doctor what exactly is happening, but the doctor himself does not know the cause. Vishwas asks if this is due to eating something spoiled, but the doctor says these people are all residents of Janata Nagar, so they must have drunk some kind of cheap liquor. Hearing this, Vishwas becomes angry because among the sick are not only men, but also women and children. Vishwas has been fighting for the rights of the people in the Janata Nagar area, so when he hears the doctor speak in such a condescending way, he cannot stand it. At this moment, Vishwas's right-hand man, the one accompanying him named Jagu, immediately lifts the doctor into the air with one hand. The strange thing is that Jagu almost cannot control his own arm. He has to struggle to shout at his own arm to stop, before releasing his grip on the doctor's neck and leaving. Right after they leave, an acquaintance of Vishwas begins to convulse violently, and then, before everyone's eyes, that person gradually transforms into a zombie. The transformation and infection parts in the film are done quite carefully, showing that the director invested in this detail. After the opening segment, the film shifts to a couple, Sudhir and Seema. In this, Seema is pregnant. The two are moving into their new apartment. On the way, they see many women fighting over water because this area is suffering from a severe water shortage. However, according to the introduction, their building has water 24 hours a day, which sounds very convenient, but the reality is not like that. When they arrive, they see that even in this apartment complex, people are scrambling to get water. Because they belong to a more well-off middle class, they can call a water tanker for temporary use. But clearly, the big problem here is that water is not being distributed fairly, but is being controlled and sold for profit. The couple goes up to the apartment. They quite like their new home. After finishing arranging the furniture, when they turn on the news, they learn that a strange disease is spreading in Janata Nagar, appearing to be an infectious virus. But the audience understands that this is not simply an ordinary illness. In another place, a man walking in a soulless state meets Santos on the street. Looking at this scene, one can guess that Santos's fate is not good at all. That man suddenly lunges at Santos and begins to eat him right in the middle of the street. On the other side, Seema talks to her mother, or a maid, and the film also introduces some other characters in the building. During that time, a boy in the apartment appears to explain a few things because Sudhir heard noises or saw something strange happening. This boy speaks very quickly and then leaves because he is busy with other work. Later, Sudhir also goes to work. On the way, he sees a large water pipe that has burst and many people are scrambling to collect water there. A little girl approaches Sudhir to ask for water to drink, but even though he has water in his hand, he does not give it to her. Because she is so thirsty, the girl has to go toward the burst pipe to get water. Sudhir's job is at a mineral water company. The owner of the company is a person named Musale or a similar character, who is also the owner of the building where Sudhir lives. Sudhir's direct supervisor is Prakash, a man with the quirky habit of always mentioning or using cow urine as something special. This company advertises that they destroy all types of viruses and bacteria to create a type of water that can boost human immunity, and after the pandemic, people will surely flock to buy this product. It is worth noting that in an area suffering from a severe water shortage, in the middle of a place where people struggle for every drop of water, there is a large water factory operating right there. Sudhir realizes this injustice, but his superior says that the company's water is a private matter, while the people's water is another matter, having nothing to do with them. Vishwas, who is speaking out against this injustice, leads a Janata Morcha protest group to the front of the factory. When security or the manager tries to stop them, Jagu again uses his strange arm to grab that person. Just then, a guard runs up to report that something big is happening outside. Prakash goes outside and threatens to call the police. Hearing about the police, most of the protesters immediately withdraw because no one wants a confrontation with the authorities. But Vishwas still stands his ground. He declares that he will give them a 3-day deadline. If within those 3 days the people's demands are not met, he and everyone else will personally shut down the entire factory. After returning home from work, Sudhir still thinks about the strange power in Jagu's arm. Right at that time, Seema starts to have cravings, so Sudhir has to go out to buy food for his wife. He goes to buy chana jor garam and sees Vishwas also present there. While Sudhir is on his way home, a zombie suddenly attacks him. It is the person who was bitten by Santos or infected earlier. The zombie lunges to bite Sudhir, but at the critical moment, Vishwas appears and lifts it up to throw it away. Or it could be said he saves Sudhir. However, instead of saying thank you, Sudhir turns around to accuse Vishwas, claiming that all of this is his plan. Just hearing that, Jagu immediately becomes angry, and when Vishwas tries to stop him, Vishwas himself is almost attacked by Jagu's arm. Sudhir takes that opportunity to leave. Afterward, Vishwas also leaves the scene. A moment later, the police appear and gather everyone to take statements or handle the incident. But instead of believing the story of a dead person coming back to life in the middle of the street, the police think what Vishwas said was just a fabrication or an exaggeration. Because to them, the appearance of a zombie in the middle of a residential area is something too hard to believe. Actually, the police just want some kind of complaint against Vishwas, so they have an excuse to deal with him. But here, nothing is clear. Sudhir tries to explain that everything looked exactly like zombie scenes often seen in movies. But as soon as they hear that, everyone bursts out laughing. An officer also tries to understand what Sudhir is saying, but in the end, the police still send him home. The next day at the office, Prakash scolds the employees because since yesterday, many workers and colleagues have not come to work. Sudhir at this time is requesting documents or reports related to the company's pollution issue, but Prakash intentionally evades him. Sudhir also knows that the complaint about the factory was very likely made by Vishwas. On the other side, because of the company's complaint, the police arrest Vishwas and bring him to the station. Here, because Jagu is not present, Vishwas has no one to protect him, and the police begin to put pressure on him. At the same time, in the afternoon when returning from school, a few people in the residential area hear a voice message or announcement and they are also pulled into a party. Sudhir later also attends a birthday party. At this party, he meets Musale, talks socially for a while, and then in a showroom or a private area, Musale subtly reminds Sudhir that the pollution index should be adjusted a bit lower. Otherwise, there will be trouble. This further proves clearly that something very shady is going on. Meanwhile, the zombies have begun to spread more violently. They approach the wealthy areas and bang their heads against a large wall. This is the wall that separates the slum from the developed area. Basically, it is a wall separating the poor from the rich. Upon hearing news of the chaotic situation, the inspector immediately sets out. Seema at this time is going out with Malti and she calls a car. But the driver, wanting to take a shortcut, takes them right into the danger zone. At the police station, Vishwas is being mocked by a prisoner or someone in the jail, so he tries to stay calm. A policeman enters, but at that exact moment, several zombies also appear at the station. Vishwas manages to save himself, but the others are caught. A prisoner and even the policeman are caught up in the chaos. Vishwas frees a person who is detained and then locks everyone else inside. But at that time, one of them has completely transformed. Despite being beaten and restrained, he still refuses to stop. Normally in zombie movies, one must destroy the brain to stop them. But in this movie, there is a difference. Vishwas smashes a full water bottle over the zombie's head, and when the water pours down, he suddenly becomes quiet. During that time, the zombies have broken through the wall separating the slum and the apartment complex and swarmed into the complex to attack everyone. Seema quickly pulls Malti to run back inside, but behind them, many zombies are chasing. On the way running, they meet an old revolutionary man, the type of person who is very loudmouthed and hot-blooded. But when a zombie appears in front of him, the old man's entire bravery is immediately revealed to be just talk. Seema takes that opportunity to run downstairs, but down below, a guard or civil defense worker abandons her. Right then, Sudhir also runs up. Another person holds up a picture of a deity to scare the zombie, but these are zombies, not ghosts or demons. So of course that has no effect. Seema sees that scene and simultaneously realizes an important thing. The zombies are attracted by sound, so everyone activates alarms or creates noise to lure them elsewhere, and then takes the chance to pull each other into a car to leave the area. On another side, reporter Anjali goes to the police station to get news. This is the female reporter who appeared on TV at the beginning of the film. When she walks inside, she meets Vishwas, who is trying to free himself or run out. Seeing that scene, she thinks Vishwas has just attacked the police and is escaping, so she immediately records a video. But Vishwas tells her everything, that people are going crazy, transforming, and they need to quickly get to Janata Nagar to check. Evidence of this is also being locked right in the station, so Anjali finally decides to go with him. When they arrive at Janata Nagar, they see the entire place has been devastated by the zombies. Then they meet the inspector, but he has also turned into a zombie. Anjali runs away in terror. Right then, Sudhir's car rushes up and knocks the zombie inspector flying. When Sudhir steps out, the zombie inspector immediately chases him. Vishwas initially does not want to help Sudhir because the last time he saved Sudhir from a zombie, Sudhir falsely accused him, causing him to be taken to the station. But in the end, Sudhir puts on a helmet or uses a hat to protect himself, and Vishwas is still forced to take action to help. In that chaos, Gan takes the opportunity to take Prakash's card or car and intends to escape alone. This is exactly the type of character who only knows how to save his own life, willing to leave others in danger so he can survive. So people decide to climb into Anjali's car and leave. They even pull Gan into the car. On the way, everyone starts sharing what they know about the zombies. Vishwas says that only under certain conditions will an infected person transform. Seema says that zombies usually run toward loud noises. Sudhir adds that they are not affected by religious symbols, meaning they are not ghosts but sick people, or transformed living dead. Everyone gradually understands that these are truly zombies, and within just 24 hours, the entire area has nearly turned into a dead zone. Their best choice now is to escape the area, and they are trying to do that, but the police have set up barriers to block anyone from leaving the area. This is the way the government prevents the disease from spreading. This way might cause thousands of people inside to die, but to them, the more important thing is to protect millions of people outside. At this time, Sudhir seems to be the most polite and calm person in the group. So, according to Seema's suggestion, he steps out to talk to the police, but his actions are no less strange than the others. He even takes off his shirt or pulls his clothes out to prove he hasn't been bitten, making the situation even more messy. Finally, another person, panicked, rushes out, and the police shoot that person dead. Sudhir's group understands that arguing with the police has no effect, so they take advantage of the chaos to bring the old man into the car and find a way to escape. Finally, here we see a very large panoramic view of Zombivli in a state of zombie disaster. Afterward, the group reaches the hospital, but this place is no longer safe either, because even the doctors there have turned into zombies. Vishwas tries to stop them, but very soon after, more zombies rush in to attack everyone. But if this continues, they certainly cannot hold out for long. Therefore, Sudhir decides to open another door, but inside that door is full of zombies, making the situation even worse. The group tries to restrain the zombies and then closes the metal gate, but everyone understands that the gate cannot hold them for long. Vishwas is also injured, so everyone runs while supporting each other to the surgery room. Inside the surgery room, there are still medical staff, but they refuse to open the door immediately. The zombies behind have chased very close. Finally, the doctor reluctantly opens the door for the group to enter. At this time, zombies are clinging all over the outside of the glass door, and if they could break a wall, a glass door is nothing. Anjali quickly uses curtains or a covering to cover the windows, because she remembers that when it is dark or when they cannot see the target, the zombies will be less agitated and stop. This method actually works. After that, everyone begins to ask the doctor how exactly this happened, because the people locked in that room had attacked the hospital staff, but clearly, not all of them had been bitten before. The doctor explains that these people were brought into the hospital 2 days ago, meaning they had the pathogen in them from before. Initially, the doctor thought this phenomenon only happened in the hospital and those sick people would soon die. But now he knows that the whole city is falling into a similar situation. The old man also needs urgent treatment, so his surgery begins. When turning on the TV, everyone discovers clips about Zombivli are spreading all over the internet, and the name Janata Nagar is being smeared the most. It is worth saying that the disease originated from this area, but those who once stood up saying they fought for the people of Janata Nagar now turn around to curse the very people of that place. A leader or politician in the movement says they don't know what the people there were eating or drinking, or how filthily they lived to let the disease break out, and then calls for a lockdown of the area to deal with all of them. Hearing those words, Vishwas seems to wake up. He understands that everything they said before was just politics. No one truly wanted to help the poor. Gan, hearing that, also begins to speak in a discriminatory and blaming manner. Vishwas could have become angry at those words, but he still tries to endure. However, Seema cannot endure it. She says directly that Vishwas just saved Gan's life, while when the zombies attacked, it was Gan who pushed Malti forward as a shield, and yet now he stands there acting superior and lecturing others. Through this scene, it can be seen very clearly that the poor, even when losing their lives, are still looked down upon. There are those who are wealthy or have status who always give themselves the right to judge. While arguing, Seema suddenly feels dizzy, so Sudhir goes to find water for her. But right then, he sees a wound or a strange sign on his hand, making the whole world inside him collapse. The old man at this time also needs positive type blood, and the matching blood type happens to be Sudhir's. But Sudhir cannot donate blood because he starts to suspect he has been infected. He refuses and walks away. However, there is no need to worry too much because Vishwas has the matching blood type. When the truth about Sudhir is revealed, Seema is extremely panicked. She does not understand why this happened to her husband. Sudhir tries to reassure her, saying that she should take care of the baby alone, that he believes she can do it, that she must leave this place and live on. Between the two of them at this moment, a very touching moment appears because this is almost the final farewell. Sudhir knows that at any moment he could turn into a zombie, so he says everything in his heart. He does not even dare to go near Seema for fear that if he truly transforms, he will harm her and their unborn child. The next morning, when Seema opens her eyes, she sees Sudhir lying motionless, so she thinks he has transformed or died. She is terrified and intends to run away, but it turns out that was just a strange way Sudhir reacted. He is still completely conscious, not yet turned into a zombie. Everyone checks again and discovers he was not bitten by a zombie. The mark on his hand is just an ordinary wound. The old man also wakes up after surgery, so everyone visits him. Just then, they notice a little girl lying in the room. This is the very girl who asked Sudhir for water in the earlier segment. Now she also suffers from the same type of disease, but the special thing is that up to this point, she still hasn't turned into a zombie. That means it is very likely the girl has immunity to this disease, and if that is true, from her, they could create a cure or a way to save others. Now Sudhir begins to understand many things. This entire disaster likely originated from the toxic water source. The burst water pipe that people once took water from might actually have been contaminated by toxic waste from the company's factory. That wastewater contains a large amount of chemicals, and that is exactly why the company tried to hide the pollution records, refusing to provide documents about the chemical area. If this matter were exposed, their entire true face would be revealed. In other words, the true cause of the pandemic is not due to the poor people being filthy or due to the Janata Nagar area, but due to Musale. The water company and those behind it discharged toxic chemicals into the environment. Now they are forced to return to the chemical area to find evidence. Otherwise, Musale will cooperate with the government, pin all the blame on innocent people, and then let them be killed off without anyone knowing the truth. The whole group understands that they must return to the chemical area of the factory because all the evidence is certainly still kept there. Sudhir at this time also feels guilty because previously he was too indifferent. Even though Seema tries to stop him, he still decides he will help Vishwas. When the whole group prepares to set out, someone says that now it is no different from starting a major war. But Vishwas says this is not acting or putting on a show. The land where Musale's factory stands actually once belonged to Vishwas's family. When Vishwas was a child, Musale used power to evict his family from there. Vishwas's father was beaten by thugs or eliminated, and he, because he was too afraid, could not do anything. Even when Vishwas tried to resist, Musale also broke his arm and beat him until he was unconscious for 2 days in the hospital. When he woke up, his arm was no longer normal, and from then on, this strange condition began. After his parents died, Vishwas was so lonely that he began talking to his own hand and named it Jagu. Since then, he has always fought for the people of Janata Nagar because he understands very clearly the feeling of having land stolen, being looked down upon, and being pushed to the fringes of society. This is Vishwas's past. Although a bit sad and a bit heavy, at least it helps the viewers understand why he protects Janata Nagar so desperately. As for Musale's side, the group takes advantage of noise to distract the zombies, and then carries boxes of evidence and runs straight to the factory. To avoid being detected, they throw a few water bottles outside to make the zombies lose focus, and then carefully sneak into the chemical room. In the chemical area on the 4th floor, they see factory employees, and very soon after, Musale also arrives with Prakash. Musale comes here mainly to take the amount of money he calls money he earned with his effort, but in reality, it wasn't any honest effort at all. Sudhir demands that he must admit all his crimes. Musale replies that if Sudhir has the guts, first go arrest the officer who took a bribe to turn the 300% pollution level into only 3% on paper, and then come arrest him. But Musale does not know that all of his words are being recorded by the camera. He even intends to use money to bribe everyone. But in this situation, what value does money still have? Vishwas angrily says that because of them, the people turned into zombies, yet now he still intends to use money to silence others. Musale still has no remorse. He says water in this world is not free. If you want a drink, you must earn money to buy it. Hearing that sentence, Vishwas becomes even more outraged, but he still tries to hold back. Right in the chaos, Prakash shoots Vishwas. Afterward, Musale and Prakash grab the money and run away, but before they can escape, they are attacked and killed by zombies. This scene is like a punishment intended for greedy people. In the end, the money they clung to could not save their lives. During that time, the zombies still swarm in. The group has to run into a room to hide, and that room is exactly Sudhir's office. Sudhir tries to hold the door, but the door certainly cannot hold for long. He knows they are trapped and very likely will die here, so Suitor calls Seema, telling her to leave that place quickly. Seema initially thinks he will find a way out himself, but when she hears Suitor's voice, she understands the situation is not good. She and everyone else carefully move outside, but during that time, Seema accidentally creates a noise, making the zombies agitated and lunging toward her. Gan immediately closes the door, locking Seema outside. People inside demand he open the door, but he adamantly refuses. He is punishing Seema just because she stood on the side of the poor and helped them. Right at the critical moment, Seema breaks a part of the iron bars or the barrier to escape. Afterward, they use a type of solution or self-made liquid to pour inside to have a little more time. But that way doesn't help for long either. The situation at this point is almost set that someone will die. But right in that moment, the fire suppression system or water sprinklers are suddenly activated. Water sprays down, making the zombies temporarily calm down. Seema realizes that if they just keep running, they cannot all escape. So instead of just saving herself, she decides to lunge into the middle of the zombies to save everyone. She finds an ambulance, brings those who need saving onto the car, and then tries to drive away. Meanwhile, inside, Suitor and the remaining people are still trapped. At times, Suitor almost loses all spirit, but the cameraman or a person traveling with him helps him stay alert, reminding him that just sitting and waiting solves nothing. Finally, they take all their courage, break the window to escape outside, but the outside is still full of zombies, and a violent chase begins again. The movie at this segment truly does not lack action scenes, but even so, it still maintains the spirit of an entertainment film with family elements and black comedy, rather than completely becoming a heavy, gory horror film. Luckily, by then it is morning, the zombies are weaker or less aggressive, so the group has a chance to escape. On the other side, when Seema sees the fire truck, she stops and tells the others to go ahead because she cannot leave Suitor alone. Some people decide to go with her, while at the factory, Vishwas, after being injured, still tells everyone to go because bringing the evidence out is the most important thing. But leaving there is certainly not easy because in front is a swarm of zombies, and behind many other zombies are also pulling in. Vishwas is almost certain to die. Just then, Seema appears with the fire truck. They use the water hose to spray the zombies behind, making them temporarily stop, and finally, everything is gradually brought under control. After that, a little time passes, the whole group appears at the hospital because Seema is about to give birth. Vishwas is also present there because now he has become the hero of Janata Nagar. He says that without a true friend, everything would not have been successful. But the friend he mentions is not Suitor but Jagu, the strange arm that always accompanies him. Hearing that, Suitor is also surprised. The pandemic situation at this time has been controlled, and everything is gradually stabilizing again. Seema gives birth to a baby girl, and when they see the baby, everyone is very happy. But afterward, the film shows there is still a zombie wandering on the train tracks. It looks ahead and then continues to move, like a sign that the story is not yet completely over. Today's story ends here. Make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you can watch more videos like this. Thanks for watching.